Guest today is going to be Stephen F. Austin's Early Childhood Education and the director of this program, Vicki Thomas. And Vicki, welcome to the show. All right, tell us a little bit about what's the program you got going on here. We'll just start with that, and you can kind of tell us a little bit about the program that's going on here.
Okay. I'm an assistant professor at SFA, and I help the teacher candidates learn how to teach social studies. And so for this social studies class, I have them collaborate with Nacogdoches I.S.D. and Millard's Crossing, and we have a field trip for third graders. And I think it's a really important collaboration between the three entities, but also it just helps the students get a feel of how life has changed, how new technologies and inventions have improved our lives. It also helps them connect with the generations. Say some of their grandparents have lived life like this, and so for them to be able to make that connection with their generation grandparents, then that's important for us. But it's also just to give them a step back in time of how life possibly 100 years ago was like being a child. So they participate in things like chores, washing clothes, shelling corn, and they look at technologies that have changed that, and how today we have a little bit different lens on the world. So we're glad to put that into perspective for them and to help the teachers teach their social studies standards, which is required by the state of Texas, and they're called TEKS. And we make sure that we hit TEKS on every station. So we're also providing a great service for the teachers because we're helping them teach their curriculum. And it's just a great field trip. I've been doing this for 3 years. It originally started with Alan Sowards, and he planned this experience, and I've just been following in his footsteps and trying to create a special event from here out.
Today we're out at Millard's Crossing, and we are giving the field trip for the third graders of Nacogdoches Independent School District. And I was stationed here at the schoolhouse as a teacher, and that's what I did. And we did an interactive writing. They got to write with quill pens, and we got to show them the cures and punishments, the rules of the old schoolhouse, and we got to teach them a lesson. We're doing this for a class. We're teacher candidates through Stephen F. Austin, and we're in a social studies class, and through this we're putting what we learn into practice. We're doing it with the students, we're classroom management with them, and we're just working with them in a hands-on environment.
Today at Millard's Crossing, I am Stephen F. Austin, actually. So we have a wax museum that the kids come into, and they come through, and I tell them about myself and tell them what my contribution to Texas was, and mostly just about my life.
Very good. And how did you feel about telling them about, I guess, your alma mater there?
It was pretty cool. Most of the kids, when I said I'm Stephen F. Austin, most of their faces light up, and they say, like the university. I'm like, yes, exactly. And a lot of the kids make a lot of jokes, and they say, the college is named after you. And I'm like, yeah, it's real funny. So I love just how it was like set in the old times. Just when you come through the gate, it is straight up 1800s. There's no funny business about it. They come in here and they learn about subsistence farming, doing stuff with their hands, how they depended on the land, and how they didn't have all the cool technology that we have now. And it's a reality shift for a lot of kids, and also for myself. I didn't know a lot about Stephen F. Austin before I did this. I'd learned about him in 7th grade Texas history, and that was about it. So getting to research and getting to see all of this in action, it was pretty neat.
At school, I am a teacher candidate at Stephen F. Austin State University. This is my first field experience one.
How do you feel about it?
Oh, how do I feel about it? I really enjoy it. I've always wanted to be a teacher, so yeah.
What ages do you want to teach?
Whenever I grow up, I want to teach preferably second or third grade. Today at Millard's Crossing, I was a tour guide. Basically, I led the children through the different stations. At each station, they were to participate in a hands-on activity. There was corn shucking, there was making toys, there was the teachers' building where they got to experience what it was like being in a classroom. back in the day. There was a church they went to, there was washing clothes, plowing, and a wax museum.
So is that's the age you want to try to teach?
Yes.
So how'd you
Even
feel?
though I had third graders today and I had a rough group, it was still good.
I'm a EC through 6 major. That's an elementary ed major. It's usually kindergarten through 6th grade, and I would love to teach kindergarten. Right now we are doing Practicum 1, which is basically like our first internship, and I'm in a kindergarten classroom, and I love it so much. I love those kids. They're the sweetest things ever.
All right, very good. Now, you have been out here, and what was your position out here at Millard's Crossing today?
My position, I was at the toy making station, and at that station, we had the kids choose between making darts or dolls. And with the toys, we're teaching the kids about subsistence farming, which is where you use whatever you have around you to make whatever you can make out of anything. So we have these corn cobs, and that's what the kids are using to make either a dart or a doll. We have fabric for the kids, we have feathers for their darts, so they get to be creative and just put their imagination.
So how'd you feel that this today helped out on your career?
I think it helped a lot. It's a lot of experience. We get to see different groups of children, and so we get to deal with them however we can. We really don't have adult supervision around, so we're just kind of getting out there. So it's a good experience.
Well, I was also in the toy making department, and we would I informed the students about subsistence farming, what it was back in the day, how we recycled everything, and we never threw anything away back in the day, to create toys to keep us entertained. I would have the students make either a doll or a dart. So it's awesome to see their creativity and to see their imagination come to life when they're using these materials and their motor skills on hands-on activity.
Did you feel the way it would have been 100 years ago? And would you like to have taught during that time period or even live during that time period?
It would have been interesting to live during that time period. Some of the students believed I actually lived right here, and they thought that I didn't know what electricity was. They didn't think I knew what electronics were. But I would think it would have been interesting to live during that time and try to teach during that time. It's completely different.
Today at Millard's Crossing, I was a tour guide, so I took about 15 kids around the whole grounds. So that was quite an experience. They were great, though. They were really great. They really enjoyed it. I would say that my favorite part is definitely the wax museum, because when they come to life, the kids are like, oh my gosh, what is that? So that's definitely really fun. It's been really rewarding, though, because getting to teach kids about history is just, I think that's definitely one of my favorites. So it's really great.
Well, I am actually a figure in the Wax Museum, and my character is Nettie Marshall, which is really ironic because I'm interning at Nettie Marshall right now. So that was really cool to get to kind of learn the history of the person who the school was named after. So.
Well, a lot of people may not know what that history is. Can you tell us a little bit of it?
Sure. She grew up around this area. She started teaching with her husband when she got married. They left so he could pursue law school, and then they came back, and she taught in the Nacogdoches School District for about 15 years, and then she decided she wanted to start a school in her home. So she started teaching in her home and taught many generations, and ended up teaching for over 50 years in this area. It has been so fun. I really enjoyed getting to interact with the kids and kind of the experience, like when you come to life, they ring the bell and you come to life, and getting to scare them and freak them out. And then sometimes when they're moving throughout the house, if you switch places and then just freeze, they just so scared. It's been a really fun experience, and just getting them to believe that you actually were that person it was just really fun to see their faces.
I was actually here in the schoolhouse, and we provided the children with a real life experience of how it was back in the day. I love how the children, they just dived right in. They noticed things like how it was a one-room building. It was made out of wood. The desks were a bit different. The boys had to wear hats. The girls had to wear bonnets, and they just loved it.
How would you have felt if you had to teach during that time period?
I felt it would have been really difficult for me. I do not like hitting kids. And back then they gave them lashes, so they would hit them as a punishment when they did something wrong. And I wouldn't be comfortable with that, so it would be complicated for me.
All right. Anything else that you noticed during the teaching part here that you would say was very interesting?
I loved how the kids, they used their minds, because there's a portion where on the board we have a coded sentence of how they would use the slang back then, and they figured it out. It was very mind-boggling, because when I was first introduced to it and they was telling us what we were going to do, I looked at the board and I was like, what is that? But the fact that I was able to explain it to them and they got it, it was amazing. They're so bright and they're so smart, and it's beautiful that they get to come out here and get this experience. And there was actually a picture here of a classroom from the 1900s in Nacogdoches, so it was very nice seeing them connect with that.
For more than 20 years, Millard's Crossing has partnered with SFA's Early Childhood Education to educate Nacogdoches I.S.D. third grade students on how life was in the 1800s. The SFA students served as tour guides in different classes, while others were in costumes to run the 9 interactive and educational learning stations. Students learned how it was to play and go back to school in the 1800s. And they were taught how much work went into making toys, food, and washing clothes. Some stations taught the third graders about the history of Nacogdoches, and the science behind energy allowed the students to apply what they were learning in the classroom.
Yeah, we went on the trip. It was so much fun. The kids loved it. I think it helps out because we, as teachers for social studies, we can tell them so much information. And us telling them is not as well as hands-on, and that's what's so awesome about Millard's Crossing, is that these kids get to go and do the hands-on activities from things that were back in the old days that they've never seen, that they don't understand, and it's just that hands-on is such good quality for them to help their understanding.
When we got to make the darts.
Got to make the darts, and tell them how you made your darts.
We got corn cob, then a feather, then the white part on the corn cob, we stick the feather into the corn cob, then we made dart.
When we got to see the wax figures.
The wax figures. What did you learn from them?
That they were named after places.
Places in Texas or places in Nacogdoches? Or?
Nacogdoches.
All right.
It was my first visit to Millard's Crossing this year with my third graders, and it was such a cool experience. We got to visit the old town that they had set up and all the old buildings. The tour guides took us around and showed us different parts where they had different activities set up, and the kids got to really act like they were living 100 years ago. So it was really awesome. We loved it.
When we went to the wax figures.
And what did you like about it?
That they were telling us about they were telling us history.
All right. So what else did you learn about at Millard's Crossing?
That it has no electricity.
No electricity. Do you think you could have enjoyed that time period? You wouldn't be able to use your iPhone or anything else? Yes. And you would be okay with that?
Yes. The waxed figures.
And what did you enjoy the most about them?
About one of the wax figures had a treasure box that had TJR on top, and that's our school.
Well, one thing I think is most important about this Millard's Crossing experience is for the teacher candidates to be able to use what they're learning in the classroom in learning theories, strategies, and best practices. What all they're learning in the classroom to actually bring it out here and work with children is a fantastic experience for them. And that's what makes SFA's educational program for elementary candidates one of the best, I think, in the world.
October 20th and October 22nd will be days that a lot of the Nacogdoches I.S.D. third grade students will remember for the rest of their lives. Well, I hope you enjoyed our trip back in time, and we ask you to join us again next time on the Insider with the Nacogdoches I.S.D.